Indie horror games nowadays that get the most attention to the public eye are kind of the same. They pretty much follow the same sort of trend that honestly, after a while, can be sort of boring. It's all 3D game this and mascot horror that. Like, is it that hard to make something creative and original? I mean, even Garten of Ban, a literal dumpster fire of a game, is getting much more attention than the game I plan on discussing about. I mean, the popularity for Garten of Ban is not good, like, at all, but still, you sort of see my point. The big type of games that get known for a long time are the ones that are sort of following the same trends. There's not that many games that actually sort of break away from these sort of trends and actually have a very creative side to the game, and the ones that do don't really get talked about as much. So that's why I'm making this video about a certain video game that should get this amount of attention. And the game that I plan on talking about is House. Now, you may have heard of this game, seeing how the game did come out in 2020, back when all people were doing were trying to survive the pandemic and watch YouTube. And for a short time, this game did get a lot of attention, many people of which were actually big time content creators like Markiplier, who actually beat the game, along with Jay from the Cub Scouts and many others. And it did well for a while, but just like any indie horror game that doesn't have a whole franchise or an unnecessary amount of merch content along with content creators doing Horizon Fall videos on, it kind of went silent. Even though the game came out with like a DLC, which I played and actually really enjoyed, but it didn't bring back the hype that this game once had. That is, until this video. Hopefully this video does well enough to the point where people who have not heard of this game before actually goes and checks it out on the Steam store. But yeah, sit back, relax, because I'm gonna tell you why House is a unique game. House is a horror adventure game that puts you, the player, in the shoes of a young girl who must explore a dangerous house that is determined to kill her and her family. The game is played from a top-down person perspective and is a mix of exploration, puzzle solving, and survival horror. You must explore the house to uncover its secrets and avoid its traps while solving puzzles to progress through the game. The house is filled with hidden rooms, secret passageways, and deadly traps that all must be avoided. The game also features the day and night cycle, which affects the behavior of the house and the creatures that inhabit it. That basically means timing in this game plays a pretty big role, so make sure you check the time due to the fact that certain events will trigger at a specific time, and it's up to you to decide whether to let those events happen or actually stop them. The game's storyline is driven by the choices you, the player, make throughout the game, affecting the outcome of the story and the player's fate. The game is known for its unique and disturbing characters, each with their own traits and behaviors that adds this game's unsettling atmosphere. The house itself is also a prominent feature of the game, with its dark and creepy rooms and mysterious hallways and hidden secrets that are waiting to be discovered. It's basically your traditional haunted house, but the house actually plays a pretty key part within the game. Rather than it just being this plain map / location, you stay for a while before going to someplace else. And that's probably another reason why I love this game so much. That, plus the lore and how dying actually plays a pretty big role within the game mechanics as well. The death in the houses are often violent and gruesome and can be triggered by various actions and events in the game. The game has a variety of characters, each with their own unique set of rules and how they can be killed or how they can contribute to the player's survival. Some deaths are caused by environmental hazards such as falling chandeliers or leaky roofs, while others are caused by supernatural creatures that inhabit this house that I've mentioned before. The game features multiple endings, some of which require the player to kill certain characters or avoid specific deaths. In some cases, the player must make a difficult choice, whether to let some characters be sacrificed in order to achieve a particular ending. The game focuses on death and violence, makes it challenging and sometimes disturbing experience, but also provides a sense of tension and excitement as you, the player, navigates the dangerous environment of this house. And that's what makes this game so special, and the reason why I was so captivated to play it in the first place. Now, exploration plays a significant part of the gameplay within the game House. The player must explore the house to uncover its secrets and find items needed to solve puzzles and progress through the game. This house is a massive maze filled with hidden rooms and secret passageways. The player must explore every nook and cranny of the house and to find the clues to items needed to solve the puzzle. The house changes with each playthrough, making exploration different every time. This adds a sort of replayability of the game and encourages players to explore every corner of the house to uncover its secrets fully. The exploration is a challenging and rewarding experience, and the game encourages the player to be cautious and curious to investigate every room and area of the house. The exploration in the house is not just about finding items or solving puzzles, but it's also about understanding the house itself. The game House is a character in its own right and way, and has a dark history that slowly reveals as the player progresses through the game. The house is filled with clues and hints about its past, and the player must piece them together to get an understanding of where you are and what is happening. The exploration in the house is also made more challenging by the various of traps and hazards that are scattered throughout the house. The trap ranges from simple trap wires to deadly spikes and pitfalls, and the player, you, must be careful and observant to avoid them. One of the key features of the exploration within the house is the use of puzzles to unlock new areas and progress through the game. The puzzles are varied and challenging, and they range from simple tasks such as finding hidden keys to more complex challenges that require the player to solve riddles or manipulate the environment in a way. The puzzles in the house are designed to be logical and intuitive, and the clues within the hints scattered throughout the house to help the players solve them. The game doesn't hold the player's hand and guide them through the puzzles, but instead allows them to figure out things on their own. This creates a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment when you finally solve a puzzle and unlock a new area of the house. And that's another reason why I like this game so much. Now, I'm not a big puzzles guy, both in the real world and the virtual one like video games, but if the puzzle that needs to be solved is fun, not that hard and enjoyable, I'm going to like it. There's a lot of video games out there that kind of just drop you in a scenario where you need to solve the puzzle, and you kind of have to use your brain with no clues and really no hints to help you out. And these puzzles are unclear and a bit long, and if you don't know what you're doing, then it's not going to feel rewarding whatsoever, seeing how the next stage is just going to be a longer and harder puzzle. It's kind of like doing chores. Once you're done with one thing on the list that you thought was going to be easy, the next thing is much more harder. In addition to the puzzles, the explorations in the house is also about finding items that are necessary for progression. These items can be found in hidden rooms, behind locked doors, or even in plain sight, but require some level of creativity to obtain them. The exploration in the house is made even more interesting by the game's use of sound and visual cues. The house is filled with an ambient sound and music that creates a tense and eerie atmosphere, and you, the player, must be consistently aware of the surroundings to avoid danger. The game's graphics are also pretty an outstanding feature, with highly detailed environments that have a rich atmosphere and detail. I mean, I love the pixelized art style. The lightings and shadows are used to a great effect, creating a sense of dread and danger in every corner of the house. One of the most common types of puzzles in the house is the environmental puzzles. These puzzles require the player to manipulate objects in the environment to reveal a hidden passage or unlock doors. For example, the player might need to move a heavy object to reveal a hidden switch, or adjust the position of a mirror to reflect light into a certain area. But those are just examples of what environmental puzzles are. Another type of puzzle in the house is logical puzzles. These puzzles typically involve solving riddles or deciphering codes to unlock doors or reveal hidden items. For example, the player must need to unlock a series of numbers scattered throughout the house and use them to unlock a safe or that contains a key. The game also features inventory puzzles, which require the player to collect specific items and use them to specific ways to progress the game. For example, the player might need to find the key to unlock a door or combine two items to create a tool that can be used to navigate certain areas. The puzzles in the house are also challenging and rewarding, with a sense of accomplishment when the player finally solves a particular tricky puzzle. The game's puzzles also add a sense of immersion and atmosphere with this creepy and forbidding environment of the house, making the puzzle feel more significant. While House is primarily an exploration and puzzle solving game, There may be instances where the player needs to engage in a combat with supernatural creatures or other enemies in order to survive. The combat in the house will likely involve a combination of melee range attacks as well as dodge and maneuvers. Players will also have to access a variety of weapons and tools such as an axe or a gun, or even improvised weapons like a bowling ball. Given the horror genre of the game, the combat in the house will be intentionally difficult, with enemies being tough to take down and inflicting significant damage to you, the player, if you're hit. Players need to learn the pattern and weaknesses of the different enemies in order to be successful in the combat. It's also worth noting that combat is not primarily focus of the house, and players need to encourage to avoid combat whenever is possible in order to conserve resources and avoid taking unnecessary risks. The game emphasizes on exploration and puzzle solving should be a main draw for the players, with the combat serving as a means of adding tension and danger to the experience of the game. You, the protagonist, is described as a young girl named Tabby, but we don't know her exact age or really anything much about her. She may be a teenager or a child, and her appearance might range somewhere between this innocent, vulnerable to tough girl to someone resourceful, depending on the game experience you're playing. As for her personality, there's not much given, other than the fact that we know she has to be a brave and resourceful and determined kid, seeing how she's trying to stop the house from killing her family. And now that I've mentioned the main character, let's actually talk about the family members. Melody. She is the younger sister of Tabby, and in the game house, her appearance includes long black hair and she wears a dark pink dress with boots. Despite claiming to detest everything, she has a passion for music and gardening. Melody's demeanor suggests that she's battling depression, and her apparent that she harbors intense suicidal thoughts. In the game, Melody's movements and actions are highly scripted and time-dependent, adding an extra layer of urgency and tension to the gameplay. You, the player, must need to pay close attention to the game's clock in order to save Melody from a terrible fate. Now, Melody's daily routine starts with waking up at precisely 11 a.m. At 1:15 p.m., players will see her exit her bedroom and head toward the music room, where she will check the piano. If the piano is still intact at 2:20, Melody will sit down and begin to play a haunting melody. However, at exactly 5 p.m., the chandelier above the piano will fall, crushing Melody and leading a game over to her. To prevent this outcome, players must choose to destroy the piano before 2:20. Doing so will trigger a different set of events, where Melody sits and cries in front of the destroyed piano before heading to the bathroom. If the toilet in the bathroom has not been destroyed, Melody will sit on top of it, where she will be killed by Inakami, a Japanese yokai that lurks in pretty disgusting and dirty places. However, if Tabby manages to destroy the toilet with an axe before Melody can sit on it, she will instead go to her bedroom, where she will hang herself. To prevent Melody's tragic end, Tabby must destroy the chair in Melody's bedrooms before she can hang herself. If this is done, Melody will instead lay in her bedroom, wallow in silence and loneliness. If the player brings the doll Dolly, Melody beloved's doll, she will then sit on her bedroom and her spirits will be lifted, and she will play her flute in the main room in the midnight. Overall, Melody's fate in the house is heavily influenced by the player's choice and actions, emphasizing the importance of careful planning and execution. Then we have the mother, Lisa. Lisa is one of the main characters and the mother of Tabby and Melody. Her appearance consists of brown hair, bright blue pants, and a pink shirt and slippers. While she displays a caring attitude toward her daughters, her dependency on alcohol is apparent throughout the game. Players witness Lisa drinking wine in excessive on numerous occasions, leading to the scenes where she passes out or becomes incapacitated. Her addiction is a further event by the numerous empty wine bottles scattered throughout the house. However, it's important to note that Lisa's drinking problem is not portrayed as a mere character flaw, but instead it adds an extra layer of complexion to her character, emphasizing the terminal impact that addiction can have on an individual and their loved ones. Despite her struggles, Lisa's character highlights the importance of understanding and empathy toward those who are dealing with her addiction. Her portrayal in the game serves as a pregnant reminder of those devastating effects of substance abuse and the need for support and assistance for those who are struggling with it. Lisa's daily routine is a mix of motherly duties and the struggle with alcoholism. Upon waking up at 10:35 a.m., she boards up the parents' room until 11:20 a.m. and then heads down to the kitchen to make her two daughters a sandwich. If you don't use a bucket to stop the leaking in the kitchen floor, Lisa will slip on the puddle and die at 3:45 p.m. However, if the bucket is there to prevent the formation of the puddle, Lisa will sit on the table and call her two daughters over for lunch at 4 p.m. Tabby can obtain a sandwich from the kitchen, which is used to subdue the rats, which I will explain later. Lisa's struggles with alcoholism becomes apparent and she begins to drink and eventually pass out around the table at 8:50 p.m. At 9 p.m., the Lanker's hand emerges from the fridge, threatening to kill Lisa. Tabby must act quickly to use either the axe or the shotgun to defend her mother and chop off the hand. If Tabby fails to do so, the hand will grab Lisa and the result of her death. So that's kind of one of the many things that can happen within Lisa. Then you got the dad, and the dad is probably the most crazy of all things, besides the monsters. The dad's name is James. James is a mysterious character in the game who will only appear at midnight. He enters a house through the front door after the doorbell rings. If certain conditions are met, he will begin to chase Tabby, which is you, requiring 3 hits to kill him. However, he can be damaged by both a shotgun with a bear trap as well as an axe. If he's stunned from slipping on a puddle, killing James will reward you, the player, with a particular ending. And yeah, that's kind of all the main family members. Now, other than the family members, there are many other characters within the house, and most of them are not friendly, if you get my gist. They're the monsters, they're the bad guys. There's the economy, which is a repulsive creature that lurks within the dark confines of the bathroom toilet. It is tall, has a grunt frame, is characterized by its ghastly pale complexion, and has a long, unkempt black hair which hangs limply around its face. Its appearance alone is enough to give you the inspired feeling of dread and disgust for those who have the misfortune of encountering it. The economy is a formidable foe, possessing an incredible elegance and reflexes. It attacks its victim with a razor-sharp claws and fangs and can move at lightning-fast speeds, making it difficult for the opponent to evade or defeat it. Its presence in the bathroom serves as a constant reminder of the dangers that lurks around every corner of the house. Then there's the Puppet Master. This is a mysterious and unraveling figure with a thin, frail body, gray hair, and an old, wrinkled face. He appears to be the mastermind behind the strange events that occurs within the house, often manipulating and controlling other inhabitants like puppets on strings. In fact, he frequently seems holding onto 2 puppets, one resembling Melody and the other is James, which he uses to demonstrate his control over them. The Puppet Master's motives and true intentions are really unknown, but it's clear that he has a deep understanding of the inner workings of the house and the families that he once lived there. His ability to manipulate both the physical environment and psychological states of those around him makes him a formidable adversary to Tabby as she attempts to uncover the secrets of the house and its twisted history. There is also the Lankler, a eerie creature with a distinctive appearance. She is exceptionally tall and thin with a skeletal frame and long black hair that flows down her face and back. Her face is almost entirely devoid of features, adding a bit of unsettling of appearance. She has striking red nails and that stand out against her pale skin, and she seems to never wear any clothes. Langular's appearance alone is enough to strike fear into the hearts of anyone who encounters her. And there's a giant rat, so yeah. Fun characters and monsters. Now, at the beginning of this, I discussed about death and how it plays a part within this game. The reason death plays such a big part is because the main character Tabby actually remembers dying rather than only you, the player, knowing. This makes Tabby knows that she's in some sort of loop. This way she can change events that happen, thus making a new timeline. Now, the timeline of events within the house can be a bit confusing, as there are several factors that influence the order and outcome of events. However, there are some general guidelines that can be followed. The game starts, and from there, events begin to unfold. Each character has their own schedule and routine, which each can vary depending on the certain factors such as whether or not certain objects have been destroyed or certain characters are still alive. Like how I stated before, if the piano in the music room is still intact at 2:20 p.m., Melody will begin to play it. However, if Tabby destroys the piano before then, Melody will instead head to the bathroom where Akaname will kill her if the toilet is still intact, or she will hang herself in her bedroom if her toilet has been destroyed. Similar, Lisa will board up the parents' room at 10:35 a.m. and stay there until 11:20 a.m. From there, she will make a sandwich in the kitchen. Whether or not she slips on the puddle of water from the leaky roof can determine her fate. It's worth noting that some events are triggered by specific actions, such as using the bear trap to catch the cat or feeding the rat a sandwich to subdue it. These actions can have consequence later on, either in a positive way or a negative one. And because of this, you're able to know more and more about the story and lore. The lore of the house is shrouded in mystery and ambiance, with many questions left unanswered. The game presents a series of events that are both unsettling and disturbing, with the focus of death and horror. One aspect of the lore is hinted throughout the game is the idea of a curse or a supernatural force that is responsible for these strange events that take place in the house. The presence of creatures like the Langular and the Akini, as well as the mysterious power of the Puppet Master, suggests that there is something overworldly at work. Another element of the lore is the concept of time loops and multiple timelines. The player is presented with different scenarios that can play out depending on their actions, and that is unclear whether the scenarios are all happening simultaneously or if they're in a separate instance. The presence of the characters like Melody, who can be killed and then reappear alive later in the game, adds a sense of confusion and distortion at first. There's also subtle hints at a larger backstory with the mythology that's never really fully explained. References to ancient cultures, rituals, as well as cryptic notes and symbols scattered throughout the house suggest that there is a deeper history behind the events taking place. As a matter of fact, due to the sort of unclearness of the story and lore, fans have came up with some pretty cool theories and interpretations. The Puppet Master may represent an outside force, such as fate or destiny, that is in control of the events within the house and the lives of its inhabitants. The puppets he holds could represent the characters themselves, as they're inhabitable to break free from his control. The house may represent purgatory or a limbo state, where the characters are trapped and unable to move until they complete certain tasks or confront certain fears. The different endings could represent different ways of breaking free from the purgatory. The Frog Lord and Akame, two pretty cool characters, may represent ancient spirits or demons that are tied to the house and its history. The frogs must be killed to prevent the Frog Lord's appearance could represent sacrifices made to appease these spirits in the past. The Langular and the other monsters in the game may represent the character's own inner demons or fear. The Langular, for example, may represent addiction or substance abuse, with Lisa struggles with it. But then again, these are just theories and they haven't really been proven. Now, I've talked about death and timelines, and you've discussed how the events you trigger can have an actual pretty big impact on the story. But now, let's talk about how the events you do trigger can actually affect different endings. There are 5 endings that I want to talk about. There is the Good Girl ending, the Patricide ending, the End ending, the Song ending, and the Family ending. The only 2 endings that I really care about, I want to focus on, is the Song ending and the End ending, but I'm still going to talk about every other ending as well. The Song ending of the game, the playable character Tabby can achieve a unique ending by giving Dolly, a doll that is found in the house, to Melody, her younger sister. Then, when James, the mysterious character also known as the father, enters the house at midnight, Melody will then begin playing her flute. The song she plays has a powerful effect on James, causing him to fall to his knees and cry. This triggers the Song ending. The Song ending is considered to be one of the good endings of the game, as it offers a resolution to the story's main story and provides a sense of closure of the character's tragic fate. Then there's the Patricide ending. It's worth noting that achieving the endings in the house are not easily tasked, as it requires the player to successfully navigate and survive through multiple timelines and challenging puzzles to reach a certain point where James will come home at 12 a.m. Once James arrives, you must engage in a one-on-one battle with him, where he continues to attack even after being sliced in half. This highlights the game's survival horror element, where you, the player, must use your wits and resources to overcome a seemingly insurmountable challenge. The uses of weapons is also a key gameplay mechanic in this sequence, with the player needing to be careful to choose their weapons and attack James multiple times to finally defeat him. This requires strategy and skills on the part of the player, adding an extra layer of challenge to the gameplay. Overall, achieving this ending of the house is satisfying and challenging accomplishment, requiring the player to successfully navigate through the game's various challenge and puzzles to reach this climatic and intensive final battle. It's a testament to the game's design and gameplay mechanics that such a challenging and complex sequence can be pulled off successfully, leaving you, the player, with a sense of accomplishment and closure. The ending, which is likely the true ending of the house, is the most challenging and complex to achieve, requiring you, the player, to first unlock all the other endings and then successfully navigate a series of difficult challenges to reach the final confrontation with the Puppet Master. To unlock this ending, the player must first achieve all 4 of the other endings, which indicates a bloody 4-point star forming on the clock in the hallway. Once all 4 endings are achieved, the player can destroy the clock with an axe, which triggers the frozen time state. In this state, Tabby must destroy the house's various body parts, starting with the eyes that can be shot with a slingshot, then the fingers that can be chopped off with the axe, then the mouth that can be destroyed by dropping a bowling ball on its teeth, and finally the player must destroy the heart with a shotgun while facing off against the husk that spawned around the house. Once the heart is destroyed, Tabby will fall into a void underneath the house where she will find the bodies of Lisa, the rat, and the cat. The Puppet Master is also found in the void, and a cutscene will trigger where he will ask Tabby to approach him. However, when she does not, he grabs her and refuses to let her leave. Tabby must then rip off her own arm to escape the Puppet Master's grasp and ultimately defeat him with her axe, bringing the game to its final conclusion. Overall, this is the true ending in the ultimate culmination of the game's mechanics and challenges, requiring the player to overcome a series of difficult obstacles and confrontations to achieve their ultimate goal. The tension and horror of this ending sequence, combined with the satisfaction of defeating the Puppet Masters, makes a fitting and rewarding conclusion to the game's journey. Then there's the family ending. To reach this ending, Tabby must need to save all the members of the family, including the cat, Melody, Lisa, and the rat. To do this, she must take a specific action to prevent their deaths. For instance, she needs to stop Lisa from slipping by placing a bucket under the leak in the kitchen and pour the water on the fire in the music room to save the cat from being burnt alive. She also needs to give the rat a sandwich to subdue it and prevent it from causing any harm. At 9 p.m., a bloody hand will try to grab Lisa from the fridge while she is unconscious. Tabby must act quickly and use the axe to attack the hand, forcing it to retreat. Soon after, the Lancular will appear. Tabby must avoid it until midnight, and if it fails to catch her, its head will explode, leading to an image of the whole family in the kitchen with the sun shining outside. This ending requires Tabby to be strategic and vigilant in her actions, and any misstep can result in the death of the family members. By successfully saving everyone and defeating the Lancular, Tabby can bring the family together and end the game on a positive note. And finally, the good girl ending. To achieve this ending, Tabby must make the decision to take a dark path and become a killer. It starks a contrast to the other endings where Tabby's trying to save herself and her family. The gameplay involves exploring the house and finding ways to kill each family member. To start, Tabby must kill Melody, which can be done by luring her to the music room and pushing her into the piano until she dies. Lisa can be killed by sabotaging the water heater, causing her to scald herself to the death in the bathroom. Cat can be killed by placing it in the oven and turning it on. Dolly can be destroyed by destroying her into the fire in the living room, and finally the rat can be killed by using rat poison found in the pantry. It's important to note that killing the family members will cause their spirits to haunt the house, appearing as possessed Melody, Demon Mom, Demon Cat, and Ghost Rat. They will become an obstacle that Tabby must navigate around in order to progress. As Tabby kills each family member, the economy will appear and keep track on her progress. Once all the family members are dead, James will arrive home with a unique dialogue, and Tabby will automatically walk to the main room where she's picked up and hugged by her father. The screen will then fade to black, leaving the player to contemplate the disturbing outcome of Tabby's actions. And that ending is the dark ending, at least for me. The only ending that I liked and really cared about was the song ending, due to the fact that I liked the song OST, and the end ending, seeing how the end ending is basically the true ending. It's the ending that sets you, the player, plus Tavi, the character you play as, free from the monster that is the house, and off the grasp of someone that wants to use you like a puppet. And for that reason is why I like these endings so much. And while we're at it, I just mentioned that I like the song ending due to the flute song. Let's talk about the game's OST. The music in the house is a crucial component to setting the game's eerie and unsettling tone. The game's original soundtrack was composed by Isaac Knight, and is a combination of ambient and orchestral music that is used to heighten the suspense and terror of the game. The soundtrack features a range of instrumental, including piano strings, precision, and eerie sound effects that are used to create an ambience and forbidding atmosphere. The music builds tension throughout the game, ramping up its intention to the player's progress further onto the house, and dangers becomes more pronounced. One notable aspect of the game's music is the use of silence in creating tension. There are several moments in the game where there are no music at all, which serves to make the player feel even more uneasy and atmospheric. The use of silence is testament of the game's sound design and its ability to manipulate the player's emotion and sense of dread. The music in the house is an integral part of the game's atmosphere to help create a sense of unease and tension that permeates every aspect of the game. It is a testament to the game's commitment to immersing the player in its dark and forbidding world. Overall, House is a unique game that sets itself apart from other horror adventure games in several ways. One of the most notable differences in the game's art style. Instead of relying on photorealistic graphics, the game features its hand-drawn cartoonish art style that adds to this game's eerie atmosphere. Characters and environments are stylized to both ways, visually interesting and unsettling. This approach to art style is not commonly seen in horror games that give House a distinct personality. Another factor that sets House apart from other games is its non-linear story structure. The game has multiple endings, as I've stated before, that can be achieved depending on the player's choice throughout the game. Each ending reveals a different piece of the game's overall story, providing a sense of depth and complexion to the narrative. The fact that the game can be completed in different ways adds a level of replayability that is not typically seen in horror games. Now, there are certain elements of House that can be compared to other horror adventure games. For example, games uses of puzzle exploration into atmosphere are similar to other titles like Silent Hill and Resident Evil. The concept of haunted house as the primary setting also draws comparison to the games Amnesia, Dark Deception, and Layers of Fear. With House's similarity to Resident Evil, both games are known for its survival horror gameplay and puzzle-solving elements. Another thing is both games require players to search for items and solve puzzles in order to progress, and both features a variety of deadly enemies that must be defeated in order to survive. Finally, House has similarities to other indie horror games like Outlast, which focuses on a similar combination of exploration and survival horror gameplay. Like these horror games, House features a sense of helplessness and vulnerability, which is integral to its horror atmosphere, as players must navigate a hostile and dangerous environment with limited resources. However, what sets House apart from these other games is its unique blend of horror surrealism and family drama. The game's narratives themselves is centered around Tabby's relationship with her family, particularly her murderous father James. This adds an emotional weight to the horror element of the games, making it more than just a simple scare feast. Additionally, the game's art style and the use of body horror creates a unique, unsettling atmosphere that is unlike any other horror game. This uses everyday objects as deadly hazards such as carpets and toilets, also adds a darkly comedic edge to the horror. But yeah, that's kind of what I got. House is a game that I feel needs to be talked about more, seeing how the game is built around this sort of hidden and secret lore. And to try to uncover the lore of the story, you must go through these sort of puzzles and try to figure out some of this stuff. The game itself is great, and if you're someone who hasn't played this game, please go check it out. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.